Good evening. This is Doc Severson for the Theo Knight Report for Tuesday, March 20th. All right, folks, we have a little bit of pre-FOMC analysis work to do. We'll start out with the 10-year note. And right now we're still kind of locked in around that 2.8, 2.9 area. You can see just on the daily chart, these technicals are fantastic in terms of how tight they are right now. The daily chart, we're seeing this big flagpole here as we've seen over the last several weeks, or really since the beginning of the year. We've seen the rates start to rise from about 2.5% up to about 2 to 8, 2.9 or so. And this is about as tight of a bull flag as you're ever going to see. Now, the only reason this thing is not breaking out right now, at least on a technical basis, is because this weekly flag is still in exhaustion. So we may have a little bit more work to do before we start to see that rise. Now, of course, rates have already priced in tomorrow's rate hike. And if we go to the target rate probabilities for tomorrow's hike, they're not giving much room at all for anything other than a quarter-point rate hike. It's, of course, is all due to the gray space out there. So not only the actual release that comes out, but half an hour later, they're going to pull out Powell to talk in front of a microphone. And this has really not gone well for the Fed chair people as they get into their first conference. This has always been really sketchy. The first time that they do this is they go through a little bit of OJT, some on-the-job training in terms of how to talk to the financial world. I'm sure that they're extremely well coached, but all it takes is one misplaced adjective, and we're going to see uncertainty come screaming into the market. And of course, that will generally be to the downside. So as we can tell here, tomorrow is pretty much a done deal with the meeting. So not much happens on the meetings between, but if we go out to the June meeting, now we're seeing a 77.7% of another quarter-point rate hike. If we go out to the next quarterly meeting after that, we're starting to see, again, about a 50% odds that we're going to have yet another or third rate hike in a row at that point. So as we know, anything can happen in the meantime between then. We're not going to worry too much about that for right now. But as we go back to the 10-year note and then the kind of the converse of that, if we look at the actual TLT or the ETF of the Treasury bonds out here, this is almost a perfect bear flag. So we're seeing a bear flag here in the middle of the flagpole, bear flag. So watch for bonds to break down. This is going to be a huge level. If this does give way, you can see all that support right around 117 or so. And if that does break to the downside, we will see perhaps some rotation out of one sector into another. Now, going over to the S&P 500, and I'm choosing on purpose the spiders here, or the ETF for the S&P, just because what I like to do is I like to watch and track the expected move. You can see that the lower expected move yesterday, we hit that expected move in the course of one day yesterday, as we had basically traders walking away from the bid yesterday and the price just continued grinding lower. Today was a little bit of an inside day. Tiny little doji candle down there. We have broken this ascending trend line. And one of the things that I've talked about over the past few weeks has been we have this big range that we have as we've gotten the shot across the bow. Usually this range keeps things in for about 3 to 4 months or so before we then get finally the price breaking above or below, depending on how this works, right? We could see either way. We could see this spring breaking back into quiet and trending again, or we could start to see, especially off of a lower high, go back to 2007 again. If we have the price working into a lower high, we could actually see this transition into this version back here. Now, tops are a process. This does take a long time before this top will yield into a trend to the downside. But let's go one thing at a time here. Actually, what I would love to see, regardless of how this market operates, is a little bit of burst of fear coming back into here. I think we need to shake off the very last of the pikers that are up here And one big burst of fear and an undercut of the February lows should provide a nice burst that we can sell into that volatility again. I will be looking, if the price does go down to this level, I'll be looking to sell somewhere around the 220 level and probably about 45 days out or so. Another nugget for today, and part of the reason why we've seen weakness lately has been due to Facebook. So Facebook, everybody's favorite, apparently has been a little bit naughty behind the scenes, and we've seen the price shave off from about 185 as low as about 162. So this couldn't happen to a better company. But what I'm seeing here that's particularly interesting, again, from that of a TA perspective, is that Facebook has been a very quiet trending stock for a long period of time, all the way up until January. And then what we're seeing now is quite different from there. This is actually a little bit of a broadening pattern. So you can start to see that the volatility is really starting to kick in, and this is the instability that occurs. And so watch for this to occur where the price rallies up to a lower high and then starts to really move to the downside. We've already seen Facebook drop the 200 period moving average, which is fairly significant. We'll see whether or not the volatility starts to increase on this bellwether tech stock right now, because if we start to have these monsters of tech start to crumble from underneath, then the market's got a long way to go to the downside. And that can actually help us understand whether or not we're going to break to the upside or to the downside from this larger consolidation pattern that we're seeing across the markets. Hey folks, before you go, I want to talk to you for just a minute about the TheoTrade Live Return of the Trader event. Why are we calling it the Return of the Trader event? Well, because we believe, and we've already seen, volatility returning to the market as of February and March, and we think it will continue going into the rest of this year. So there's no better time than now to get prepped for all this volatility than at this event, because this is what we're going to be focusing on. So look at all these happy people from our last event. You can be one of them at the next event, which is coming up the beginning of May. So May 3rd, 4th, and 5th. I'll get into that in just a minute. Right now for members, the members are getting pricing of $1,100. So you've got until April 1st to get this price level. Otherwise, it's going to end up going up again. And also, don't forget that the event is limited to 200. So once we do sell the 200th ticket to this, we will shut down admissions to this event. All right, so where is it at? When is it going to happen? All those things. So it's going to occur at the Scottsdale Resort at McCormick Ranch in Scottsdale, Arizona. This is where we were last September. It is a really, really nice place, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about that in just a minute. So who's this for? Intraday traders, swing traders, income traders. We've got something for everyone here. So again, on the 3rd of May, May 3rd, is where we have the event registration and a happy hour. So you can meet all of us live, can corner us in a room and ask us questions. And drinks are on TheoTrade, so don't forget that. We also have a quick event for you guys with Jeff and Don coming up. On Friday, May the 4th, this is when everything kicks in here. First session of the day will be Return of the Trader by Don Kaufman. And then we'll shift into Jeff Bierman. Professor Jeff Bierman will go into negotiating intraday volatility shifts, something that's very, very important in this type of volatility. The last session in the morning will be Perfecting Your NASDAQ and Intraday Trading Style by Tony Rago. And after lunch, I'll come on board with Fractal Analysis Intensive. So we're going to be talking about fractals in the context of what's happening in the market today. And then we'll go into Taming the Trend Day by Corey Rosenblum at the end of that day. So that is Friday, May 4th. So it's a market day. And then we will have the second day, Saturday, May 5th. And we're going to go right back into Don first thing in the morning. Probability and Profitability in Trading by Don. Price Action Intensive, again by myself. So I'm going to be going into specifics of reading price action. Tony will go into more about intraday trading, the NASDAQ E-mini. Don Kaufman will go into the state of the markets. We'll talk to Corey for creating your game plan for the next trading day. And then we'll have all of us up front, closing ceremonies, final giveaways, and everybody is sent home at that point on Saturday evening. So you might be saying, well, that all sounds great, but what's in this for me? Well, we've got 9 reasons here as to why we think this is a good event for you. First of all, just hearing repetition, practice and repetition over the next 2 days as we conduct this seminar. You're going to hear the same things again and again, and pretty soon you'll start to think in the same way. Don't forget that almost all of us trade at home or in our office by ourselves, and many times we don't feel like we're connected. Well, this is where we can also show you that you're part of a bigger community. You're going to hear from others and understand what they're doing in today's market. And by doing that, you'll discover your one-of-a-kind style. This is where you form your own trading strategies. You're going to be talking to not only the instructors, but also other people in the room to gain their wisdom, get their approach from things, understand how to risk manage in today's market, play it safe and play it profitably. And make sure that you're not trading just out of boredom. We're not going to get boredom in this year's market, but making sure that you're looking for just the best setups and then being decisive about taking those setups. And then finally, ultimately, this is what we're all after, is that peace of mind and freedom that all of us are looking for through individual trading. Now, this is not some event where we just sit up at the front of the room and put a virtual wall in between you and us. You're going to meet all of us. You're going to talk to us at the breaks. We are here for you, to talk to you. So Don, Jeff Bierman, myself, Tony Rago, Corey Rosenblum, as well as your other 200 attendees. Now let's talk about the actual location, the Scottsdale Resort at McCormick Ranch. And I'm particularly excited to talk about this because there's some really cool things about this place. So it's pretty easy to get to. It's not that far from the airport. It's a world-class airport. You should be able to get direct flights in just about regardless of where you live. Let's talk about the venue for a second. This is what a typical room looks like. And I do want to mention, I mention this every time I talk about this event, but I love the chairs that they have here. The chairs have got armrests. You're not going to be sitting here playing elbow wars with a guy next to you. They recline, so you're going to be comfortable all day long. You're not going to be sitting on some little narrow, tiny banquet chair that's going to wear you out after 3 hours. The weather should be excellent at this time of year. There's all kinds of events and outdoor activities that they have at this particular ranch. Now let's talk about the meals as well too. This is where, again, I get excited about this because breakfast, this is not just any breakfast. This is a really, really good breakfast served on Friday and Saturday, as well as the lunch. So we bring in the lunch. We bring in the lunch here for you guys. Bring in the lunch. So both days we're going to serve you breakfast and lunch. For dinner, you're on your own because a lot of people want to go explore the area. But what we find is a lot of people get together as groups anyway and go out to eat for dinner. So anyway, get your ticket right now. Make sure you get it in before April 1st to be able to get that preferred pricing. Don't miss this event. This is a great time. There's a lot of terrific information that's brought out there. Everybody walked away with a smile on their face last time. We want you to be one of those people to join us as well too. Hope to see you out there. Take care.